Hello, everyone. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. It is class number 3 of Addiction Freedom Training, and we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. So if you are here and you're not part of the Addiction Freedom Training, then go somewhere else. Today we have first some questions and answers we're going to work on. And then we're going to do some review of class number 2 because it's all about, you know, the whole sequence and all. Yeah, that's right. What else? And I'm just going to ramble on for a few minutes while everybody else is finding their way into the room. We have members and students from so many countries now. Ireland and the UK, London, all over England, Canada, United States, Australia. So it's definitely happening, and it's very exciting, very exciting. So we're gonna look at a couple of questions that we have from Victoria Breesy. Anyone else who wants to ask questions, you can either type them into the chat room, which I need to click to enable it. Looks like it is. Let me put that in there. And what else? That's what we're going to do. We're going to get started in a couple minutes because it is the top of the hour right now. That's right. And I'm in my kitchen because we're hoping for better internet speed today. And if I'm in the kitchen, I'm closer to the router, and, you know, seems to make a difference. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes. I know people are getting into the room. In Australia, apparently it's 4 a.m. in at least one part of Australia. So let's see, who is stumbling into class? Hopefully y'all did your homework, right? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go over a list of things that we're going to review as you are getting in here. And then we will start with class number 3. Print out the notes if you haven't already. It's really helpful to be able to handwrite things, circle things, highlight them. Really good idea to get those notes printed out. Alrighty, alrighty. So it's interesting, in the beginning of the class, it doesn't show the list of attendees. It kind of updates it like every few minutes. So I'm assuming there's a whole bunch of people in here, but it hasn't updated my attendee list yet. So it's all right now. It looks like it's me. I know it's not, but it seems like it is. There we go. Here they are popping in. Hi, Vanessa from very far away. Ellen, Susie. Yay, Ellen. Tell us where you're from. Remind me where you're at. Bob's here, Gary's here, Susie. Yay, yay, yay. So yeah, I got bad light today. I'm in my kitchen in the darkness. Hey, Minerva, nice to see you. Excellent. Okay, so Darren, yay, I'm so glad you made it. We got all the email stuff figured out for you. Awesome, Darren, good to have you, definitely. All right, so here's what we're going to review. First of all, the success rates. I've been asked about this in a previous class, and I think it's really important. So you may want to take notes on this. And you could go back and watch this again if you need help knowing how to answer that. So people are going to ask how our success rates are with the Addiction Project. There's a couple ways to frame it. We have not done a study that shows us exact success rates. Okay, so that's something you can say. We haven't done a study yet that shows us the exact success rates. However, as a side note, we definitely want to do that. We want to have someone who's really good with that sort of thing of how to set it up and frame it and work on that. But anyway, here's what you can say. In the Addiction Freedom Program that has been used for over 10 years internationally with thousands of people, our success is in people who have failed repeatedly, who have been to rehab over and over, maybe trashed most of their life and feel absolutely hopeless and helpless to change their life and quit their addiction. And where we've had amazing success is people who don't believe they can do it, they do. And within a few days, they tell us their mind has changed, their body has changed, their outlook has changed. And from that point, they're just not interested in the drugs or the alcohol again. It has happened to us repeatedly. And this is from people using our home course without any assistance at all. Okay, so that was part of what you would say for your success rates. That's where we've been really successful. Okay? Now, the other thing you can mention is there's a treatment center called Passages, which is in Malibu, California, and it's very expensive, but they have a very high success rate, and they have tracked it diligently. Their success rate is about 85% long-term, and one of the reasons that they're so successful is they have a team of hypnotherapists. There's 12 hypnotherapists on staff that do sessions with their clients. So of course that's not the only thing that makes them successful, but it's one of the things that is a real key, and a few of their therapists have been trained by Wendy personally. Okay, so there were 3 people who have taken my training from Passages. I don't know, this is your side note, I don't know if they're still there or they're still working. I know Passages doesn't pay them very much, so they may not be there anymore. But the point is that this is how you can explain success rates. And so then you want to let them know that this program has had tremendous success all over the world as a home study course. It's on CD using these same methods, and tremendous success for people who had given up and didn't think they could do it or didn't even want to quit. Okay, so got that? That is your review on our success rates. Edward says, good morning, superstar hypnotist. Yay, right on. High five, Edward, and to all of you. Yes, yes. Bob is here. Let's see, any other comments? Darren says, bonsoir. Yes. So my chat window will not scroll because I'm using Chrome, perhaps. That's unfortunate. Okay, well, I'm going to have to keep up on the chat questions because I can't scroll to see what's down there. All right, now the review from Saturday, yes, the day of epic, disastrous internet failure. But there are the classes, I listed them in the TAP Training Facebook room, and it looks like there's 3 different segments. If there's stuff missing from those, let me know. I'm going to re-record the missing parts. All right. One of our reviews first is about the symptoms of withdrawing from drugs and alcohol. We're going to cover some of the different drugs and go over some of the dangerous withdrawals. So we know about alcohol and its withdrawals. Withdrawal symptoms generally last 3 or 4 days. There are some other things, of course, that are health issues that need to be repaired that take some time, but the most serious withdrawal symptoms are 3 or 4 days, maybe 5. The most dangerous one is called delirium tremens. Make sure that you have that written down and you're saying it properly. Delirium tremens. For short, it's called DTs. DTs are seizures that people have, and the seizures can and will kill you if you are a really high alcohol user, which is the type of person who has to drink all day and has to sustain the level of alcohol in their body and in their brain. The reason people get these seizures is because when you have consistent large amounts of alcohol in your body, it is suppressing all of your body activity, but mostly your brain activity, right? So to compensate, your brain races, it increases the speed and level of activity that it needs just to get back to like that normal functioning, right? So when you remove the alcohol, what happens? And who knows what happens if you remove that alcohol? Your brain goes up to its speed that it's operating at without the alcohol to suppress it. Make sense? And then when it has that really high activity, it goes into seizure modes. So someone will notice on day 2 or 3 of their detox that they're getting the shakes. If they start getting the shakes or their eyes start fluttering or anything starts happening, they could be starting to have a seizure. So there are medications that they really must take if they're a high alcohol user and they consistently use it, and they won't happen until about the 3rd day. Okay, so don't let your client think that on day 2 they're fine, so they must be okay, they're over it. But of course, you do not want to participate in giving them advice or practicing medicine without a license by telling them what to expect from detox. But you do need to recommend and insist, in this case, that they go to a detox doctor if they are a very high alcohol user. Now, there's another kind of alcohol user, which is habitual or a problem drinker. It's not your job to determine whether or not they need detox, but someone who's a problem drinker or a habitual drinker probably does not need detox. Maybe it's someone who goes home every night and drinks a bottle of wine, or they have 2 cases of beer every, not cases, that would be a lot, 2 6-packs of beer at night or something, or they binge once or twice a week. One of the participants who came to my 4-day intensive, he said he has 1 day a week that is his drunk day, and it is a huge binge. He knows that he's going to call in sick the next morning, and he's got everything off his calendar because he'll be hungover for at least a full day, and he just goes crazy. Well, he probably doesn't need detox because he's not consistently flooding his body and brain with alcohol. All right? Does that make sense? Everyone? All right, so let's see, what else? More review. Opiate withdrawal, whether it's oxycodone, OxyContin, hydrocodone, or all the ways that people get opiates, Percocet. Doesn't matter so much what the pill is. If they are addicted to opiates, they're going to be doing enough of those pills and pharmaceuticals to achieve whatever level of addiction they need. Remember that with opiates, you have to increase your dosage just to feel normal. So once you've taken enough opiates, even if it's just a couple of weeks on pain medication because you were hurt, you're going to get your opiate receptors to shut down so they don't produce the opiates you need in order to feel normal. So an opiate addict, a full-blown opiate addict, heroin or pharmaceuticals, is going to go through a detox process that takes 1 to 2 weeks. And it's intensely painful. They vomit a lot. They have severe diarrhea. And their bones feel like they're on fire, and all of their body hurts extremely bad. They have muscle cramps, stomach cramps, and the pain is really severe, so much so that they go back to opiates because they can't stand it. They need to have a medical detox. If they are an actual opiate addict, and they know that they are, they'll know. Many of them have quit on their own, gone through the pain, the torture, everything else. If you want to read about it, Google something like heroin withdrawal forum or opiate withdrawal forum, and you'll read their stories. And every time they do it, they say, I'm never going to go through this again. I am not doing heroin again or oxy or anything else. So one of the pharmaceutical companies has just come, I think they might not have gotten it approved yet, but it's very close. It's called Zyhodro. I think that's how it's spelled. Maybe someone wants to Google that, Zyhodro, so we have the right spelling. And Zyhodro is basically, it's OxyContin without the protective coating. And the protective coating that they just put on OxyContin in the last couple of years makes it so you can't crush it to snort it or inject it. When you crush it, a gel-like substance is released that prevents you from getting the high you need if you're an opiate addict. So Zyhodro, woo, brilliant move, pharmaceutical companies, because all their addicts can't take the OxyContin anymore, right? So they're approving Zyhodro, which has no protective coating, and it's the same strength as OxyContin, which was made for people who are dying. It was made only for that purpose in the beginning, for people who are dying and have pain while they're dying. Then it was approved for other purposes and started being prescribed all over the place, and is the cause of the opiate addiction epidemic. Remember that. That's going to be very, very important. Now, someone will not die from withdrawals of opiates. They'll feel like they are, but they will not die from it. But they need medical supervision because otherwise they're just going to, day 3 or 4 or 5, they're just going to go back on the opiates. Make sense? Okay. Other drugs, the benzos, the withdrawals from benzos, if someone is truly addictive, are dangerous, and they need medical supervision for those as well. Obviously, quitting marijuana doesn't need medical supervision, and it's detoxing it. They will get anxiety and sleeplessness. Anxiety is very common for getting off marijuana, but what's really interesting is that marijuana can also cause the anxiety. Even if you're not trying to get off of it, it also at some point triggers anxiety in you because you're using it. How that happened, I don't know. Ooh. Okay, what other drugs? Cocaine will not kill you. Meth, well, it can kill you from using it, but not from detoxing from it. Meth won't kill you from detoxing from it either. Cocaine doesn't need to be medically supervised so much. Meth, I just don't know detox-wise what they do for meth. Because people go for periods of time, long periods of time without using it. So they go on a 2 or 3 or 4 day meth binge, and then they stop, you know, for a week or two. It's not usually something they do every day. It can be, of course. But anyway, that's what that is. Okay. Not sure if my little chatty room is working right. Because I'm using Chrome. You know, our webinar jam is supposed to work better in Chrome browser. So I'm using that, and I'm just hoping that everything's working. How is our internet on your end? Is it smooth, and does it seem like it's working okay? You can type into the chat room and let me know. All right. With the definitions of what you do, the company that is your worldwide umbrella for this work is The Addiction Project. The website is theaddictionproject.com. You do the work that's called addiction freedom. You're not treating addiction. You are a relapse prevention expert. So that's the work that you do. You're not treating addiction. You're not getting people off drugs or alcohol. You are a relapse prevention expert. And remember what the reason is? The reason is because people quit all the time. They quit drugs and alcohol and even heroin and all the time. It's relapsing that's the problem, right? Many of them relapse right after they get out of 30 days of rehab and just paid their $35,000. Thank you, Edward, Jared, Rebecca, Susie, and Vanessa. Darren says, my ex-partner was a chronic alcoholic and got prescribed Librium with a reduced dosage after 4 weeks, which was good for her, and it gave her a further cause to drink again. Oh, no! Oh, why did the Librium give her more cause to drink, Darren? What do you think that was? Did you hear from her about that? Okay, as you're typing that in. So anyway, basically that's it. Theaddictionproject.com. The work you do is addiction freedom, and it's going to like light some people up when you say the word freedom, and you're going to stand strong and get both your feet planted on the ground and say, absolutely. Our program gives people freedom from addiction, puts it in the past, and they have the freedom to live their lives, the freedom to think their own thoughts, and the freedom to be awesome. All right. Another review. How does each element of the 6 elements of change contribute to the permanent personality change? And we're using personality as a word that encompasses mind, body, spirit, life, all that, okay? So how does each element contribute to that? Of course, we know that belief. We have to believe that we are strong, healthy, and in control. We have to operate from the belief that we know that it's going to be easy to just live an amazing life. Well, it's not, life isn't always easy, but it's going to be easy to live a life not as an addict, but as a person who's healthy and happy and doing the things that they love to do. Your values. Creating those values creates boundaries. You decide with your values what you will or won't do, what is okay for you. Is it okay to be honest or dishonest? Is it okay to steal or not steal? Is it okay to be deceptive or to have integrity? Is it okay to feed your body crap and have excuses about why you're not feeling good and to invite bad people into your life? These are your values, and we create the good values. And desire, of course. We want to create desire. If a person doesn't have desire, we are going to create it for them, right? So that was belief, values, desire. These are not in order right now, but repetition. Repetition is because we know that the science is about the neural pathways and how they're connected and what they're wired to. And we know that the proof is there that if you fire it, you wire it. That means that if you think the thought and if you envision and imagine something, you are firing the neurons, and when those neurons are fired, they build neural pathways to something. Where do you want them to go? So that is repetition. We have to use repetition to get those fired. So that was for self-talk is one as well. So self-talk, if you are still saying bad things to yourself, if you're still operating out of the old tapes that are playing in your head, even though a person's done this work. You know, if they go and say, oh God, can't believe it, I did it again, I'm so stupid, this is never going to work, it's just, I can't do this. Or let's say they get anxiety because they had a bad day, and immediately when they get that anxiety, they said, I'm going to have to drink. There's nothing else that will help me. I'm just going to drink. Their self-talk is going to reignite the neural activity that's going to cause them to go back to those old memories. So we have to change the self-talk and keep it in check. So that was 5. What's number 6? What do we got for number 6? Belief, values, desire, repetition, self-talk, self-sabotage. Okay, self-sabotage. We know we have to change that because the part that wants you to use drugs or drink is doing it for a positive reason. It's trying to help you, save you, protect you, help you avoid something like life and responsibility. But whatever that reason is, we've got to look at that self-sabotage and release it. And we do that with the parts therapy, right? Okay, so there are processes for each of these to help your client achieve all of these. I believe that all of these are absolutely critical. Now, in my last training, we said, okay, how about number 7? What's number 7? And someone suggested self-love. And I think at the very core of all of this is that we do want to give the person all that they want and need in themselves so they can love themselves. So we can look at number 7 as being self-love, which means you've got to have honesty and integrity and beliefs and values and pride and accomplishments, big or small, great self-talk, etc., right? Okay, so Darren answered my previous question, which was because she felt really good in herself and normal. So the Librium was masking the deeper problem because nobody dealt with that real problem, the real underlying problem, which is what we are going to do. And what I'm going to present to you in a couple minutes is just, it's really good stuff. You're going to love it. Okay. And then I asked you for homework to read the business plans. If you have any questions about the business plans. Yeah, I think it was Rebecca who was the one that suggested that number 7 is love of self. When I do the next printing of the workbook, I'll create an entire segment that's for that. Because there are sessions in that there for self-love, the audio sessions, but that's not a section. Okay, business plans. You know about your scope of practice. You are not giving medical advice. You're not treating addiction. Don't get yourself into trouble. We'll talk about that more too. Creating false memories. We've talked about this, but I want to make sure you're very clear on this. In order for people to have a thing in their brain for the neural pathways to go to find the beliefs and the joy and the value and the future self and the identity and everything we need, we have to build a false memory that is your future self. So we're not saying that that is a false possibility. We're just, in our terminology, it's a false memory. Don't say that to your client. And don't say it to like a treatment center that, oh, we're going to build false memories. That's not good. Because false memories usually mean you're creating false memories in past history and regression to cause. Okay, so the false memory is creating a version of themselves in the future that's successful, happy, healthy, strong, in control, all of those things. And you're infusing it with as many things as you can so that it has as many feelings physically, emotional experiences, mental processes, spiritual breakthroughs, all of those things in that false memory. Then you can send the neural pathways to that so that it has somewhere to go. And one of the problems, one of the many problems with addiction treatment these days is they don't build that. They talk about it. And they have meetings meetings and talk about it in the meetings maybe, but they don't build it in your brain. And because our brain needs some really, really serious instantaneous neural pathways going there, it gets a little bit difficult. Okay. We talked about how to switch the cravings. Read the addiction zapper information in your manual. And then if you have the recording, listen to the addiction zapper or alcohol zapper program. On my website, that is quitdrinkingnow.com, there's a free session, and it is a very simple process that people go into the future to a time where they're no longer an addict. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long. So I would say listen to that, quitdrinkingnow.com, go get that. And that's our review. Except there's a couple questions that some very smart person had in here. Victoria says, any comments on the study I uploaded about how being too confident can backfire? Yeah, I read most of it. I printed it out and I read most of it. And it is interesting. I don't know that I agree totally. I think it's around here somewhere, and I made some really good notes on it. But and I understand the concept that confidence in and of itself is not enough for you to think you've got it made. So you're an addict who hasn't done all of this work, and then you have this false confidence of feeling like, okay, I've got it, I can do this. But as soon as you're in a situation where your brain is triggered, and those triggers open up all the memories and the emotional events and the traumas or whatever was stewing up in there, you have no willpower to combat that. So yes, the overconfidence that you're mentioning in that article, that alone could be bad. However, when we do all the work with all the different elements that are needed, we have a person who is confident. They are so confident that they have an absolute belief that they're no longer an addict and they're not going to struggle with it, which is what we want. They also need to have all the work done that keeps them in a strong brain, a strong body, a healthy mind, and using all of those elements, right? And if something comes up that causes them to relapse or have fear of relapse, then we want to find out why. Okay, so thank you, Victoria, for that. And Victoria says, one more question, and I do love this question. AA recommends that loved ones participate in Al-Anon to learn how to support the addict appropriately. So, what book or program would you recommend for partners so they'll know how to be helpful with our type of approach? It's a great question, and I have not developed anything for that. So, I would love to have a couple of web pages so that people really understand the concept and the process and how they want to talk to their loved one so that they don't talk 12-step and they can support them. I think that's a great idea, Victoria. We need to do that. Yes. Okay. Okay, any other questions before we get started? Any other questions and answers? I'm going to tell you that the book that I'm reading right now is Inside Rehab. Yesterday I mentioned The Sober Truth, but that's actually not the book that I meant. The one that I'm talking about is Inside Rehab. I have only just started it, but I'm going to read to you a few of the excerpts that I highlighted. These are very important to understand. The author of this book went to treatment centers all over the country, and she wrote a book called Inside Rehab, and it's not meant to just trash the addiction treatment field. It is to find out the truth of what's really going on. She was able to interview about 100 treatment centers. She was able to interview their past guests. I don't know what you call them. They're not addicts anymore, hopefully. Their past clients and current clients. She was able to sit in on meetings that they did. And she mentions a lot of experts and organizations that are looking for more effective treatment methods. So she's got some resources in here for us to make contact with to see if there would be a foot in the door with that. Okay. So now I'm going to spend about probably, maybe 7 or 8 minutes reading some of these segments to you. Okay, so there's a place called Treatment Research Institute, TRI. This is a group dedicated to conducting studies to evaluate what works in addiction treatment and why. And this is her words. I'd periodically call him to find out about developments in the field. Much of what he shared was appalling. He says, if you've seen one rehab, you've basically seen them all. Yes, there are exceptions, but of the many thousands of treatment programs out there, most use exactly the same kind of treatment you would have received in 1950, not modern scientific approaches. Counselor training is impoverished, and staff and director turnover in these programs is higher than in fast food restaurants. That was his quote. Okay, so the rehab consumer, Dr. McClellan says, when it comes to picking a rehab, most people ask more questions before buying a vacuum cleaner. That's so true, because you just trust that these rehab centers know what they're doing. They must. They charge $30,000 or $40,000. They must know. Okay, that was not her words. That was mine. Okay, so in 2009, McClellan became deputy director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, or what's commonly known as the Deputy Drug Czar for the Obama administration, but has since returned to be president and CEO of TRI. So you can imagine that a nicely worded letter and some introduction might make someone like Treatment Research Institute, who is looking for new effective treatments, actually take a look at our program. Now, in Australia, who is it? Not Vanessa? No. Someone sent me an email that is about connecting us with one of the national organizations for drug treatment there that would possibly be a nice place to get a start in Australia as well. Okay, let's see. All right, so this is another interesting thing that she heard frequently in the rehab centers, and this is important for you in helping your clients. Somebody says to her, have you ever heard this joke? How do you know when an addict is lying? When his lips are moving. And she says, quite frankly, I find it offensive. It stems from the widespread notion, often promulgated in addiction treatment itself, that virtually all people with addiction, drug or alcohol problems are dishonest. Even a nationally known expert in the field included, they are all liars in his definition of an addict when talking to me. Emily said that at a halfway house she attended, they told us we're addicts and we lie and we can't be trusted. It made me feel like crap. So yeah, think about that. We have a section of our training in the Addiction Freedom Program that is about integrity. And it's about getting your client to choose to have integrity with you, feel what it's like. Also, there's audio sessions in the book that you have the links for that they're going to listen to about being honest, true to themselves, not lying anymore. So we're going to fix that. We're going to honor their honesty. All right. Here's another section about 12 steps. When I wrote Sober for Good, more than 90% of rehabs in the United States were based on the 12 steps. While the ratio appears to have dropped somewhat, most programs still base their approach on the 12 steps, including a 12-step component, require 12-step meeting attendance, and hold 12-step meetings on their site. So that's still the accepted protocol. And she also says most people I interviewed offered no alternatives. So all these treatment centers here in Australia, Canada, the UK, most of them do not have any other alternative because they don't know what to do. Okay. The 2012 Casa Columbia report mentioned earlier concluded that the vast majority of people in need of addiction treatment do not receive anything that approximates evidence-based care, and that only a small fraction of individuals receive interventions or treatment consistent with scientific knowledge about what works. Okay, got that on our side. So here's someone's experience in a rehab, and the author of this book found it to be very typical of most of the rehabs. This is a client. Says, we listened to people glorify their using. We watched movies like I, Robot and did some inspiration cards. We sat downstairs and did nothing a lot. There just wasn't anything there. When asked about 12-step treatment work, she said, I asked for stuff to work on, and I started a 12-step meeting. So having had been in both residential and outpatient treatment before, she had some sense of treatment, what treatment normally is like. She continued, when they finally gave us things to work on, like for self-esteem, it was basically for kids. They didn't go over any relapse stuff, and that's why I was there. Every now and then we'd have a lesson about something. Sometimes an outside lady would come in and she was very good. And that's like you and you and you and you and you. Okay, interesting, huh? And this is a very expensive rehab center. Okay, one more. Dr. Willenbring says, and this is someone she interviewed in a treatment center, no one wants to say treatment as we've been doing it probably isn't as effective as we thought, and we need more basic research to really come up with new tools. In the meantime, let's do what we can to help suffering people in the most cost-effective way and strive not to harm them. That's what the doctor, probably a psychiatrist or someone who just doesn't have any other methodology to use, is saying. He says, in the meantime, let's do what we can to help suffering people in the most cost-effective way and strive not to harm them. Do you hear what this is saying? And I've only read like the first fourth of this book, and she's going to give more stories of all the things that are happening inside rehab. What's important for you to understand is there are a lot of treatment centers that if they have something that they can totally see and experience and know that, wow, these are the tools, this makes sense, it is a methodology, it is start to finish an exact process with 10 years of success worldwide. So this is the last part of this quote from Dr. Willenbring. Interesting name, Willenbring. Okay, he says, or she, but I think we're going to eventually have to face up to this fact, and the longer we go on saying that the emperor has elegant clothes on, the worse it will be. So it's time to present the, turn that off. I forgot to turn my phone off. It's time to present this to treatment centers to get the support of large organizations, and I don't think it's going to be very difficult. So it was Vanessa. Okay. So Vanessa in Australia says, Australia does street work. They know the rehabs don't work. What? I don't know. USTRA. That's, you're not meaning Australia, right? Australasia. Australasia does street work. They know the rehabs don't work. Australasia. So that's the organization that you were talking about. That you know the director of it, or he's the new CEO. He was the CEO, and now he's the CEO again, something like that. So Vanessa, if it's possible that you could set up a meeting, and I can certainly do that and meet with him like online, but I could also come there and certainly meet with him. That's going to be a real key to. Apparently I didn't turn my phone off all the way, did I? No, I didn't. Come on. Sheesh. Drug arm, yeah. So yeah, this is good. We have so many people now in our organization, and we're going to grow very fast, and we're going to find more contacts and more places to get ourselves really known. I'm thinking about talking to a large organization like Kaiser, who has drug treatment programs in their organization. Of course, things like that have lots of red tape and lots of time involved to implement them, but it's possible that we could do a test program in several of the Kaiser hospitals as part of the research. And then Kaiser, if it works, they get to take credit for revolutionizing drug treatment, right? So that's what they want to do. Kaiser is trying to change their reputation and their methodology. I went on a bike ride in Denver on Saturday night, and it was over 4,000 bicycles where they closed the streets of Denver, and everybody rides around on bicycles at midnight. But what was interesting was, you know, you get a lot of swag, little tchotchkes and little things you get to take home for free, but Kaiser had a booth where they had like 8 tables of produce. So you filled your bag with cucumbers and big heads of broccoli and peppers and fruits and cherries and kale, and oh my gosh, it was like quite interesting. It just said a lot. It was a very nice association. Okay, so class 3 notes. Here we go. Woo woo. Are you an addictive personality? Is it true that someone can be an addictive personality? Well, you can consider yourself an addictive personality. It's what you're addicted to that is the problem. However, if your client says it in a negative context, saying, well, I don't know what to do, I'm just an addictive personality. Yeah, I think it's genetic. Oh, okay, so I'm an addictive personality. What does that mean? That means that I believe that once I do something that I feel like I don't have control to stop, or that is harmful or damaging to me, I'm probably going to do that even more because I don't have the tools or the willpower to stop myself. So this could be a shopping addiction or a hoarding addiction or a sex addiction or whatever it is, but it's an excuse, isn't it? That's right. Shake your head up and down. It's an excuse. We don't have, well, we have addictive personalities, but we don't have that as a reason not to choose a better and healthier personality trait. When I was in London doing the addiction training, it was just a one-day training, and one of the women in the group had a shopping addiction, but she didn't tell me till after the class. She says, you know, I know that we weren't doing this training for our own addictions because these were hypnotherapists. And she said, but at lunch, what I do is every minute I get, I sneak out and I go shopping and I buy stuff. And I was going out during our lunch break to go buy stuff, and she says, I just couldn't, I didn't want to. It just seemed like the weirdest, stupidest thing to do, and there were things I wanted so much more. This was from her just sitting in on the course as a therapist, which was pretty cool. So she maybe thought she was an addictive personality. Once she learned that she was not, that was enough to make the lights go off and make her quit shopping, quit her shopping addiction. Make sense? Okay, so you're an addictive personality. You've got to open up your client's eyes with that. Could we be addicted to something else or something healthy? And what do you guys think about that? Do you think that we are supposed to be addicted to something? And put in your comments in the chat of what you think about being an addictive personality. Do we need to be addicted to something, and what would that look like? Okay, so I want each of you to type in some information about what you think about that. So expectation. I don't remember if we've talked about this in this course yet, but the expectation that you set for your client means that you're not going to be wishy-washy about it. You're not going to get them to hope that this is going to work, or say, well, it works for some people and not for others, and it might work for you, and we'll find out as we go. You want your client to have the highest expectation that this is absolutely right for them. You know that your pre-talk, your phone consultation, the person you meet in person right then at that moment who's never met you before, and when you say, I'm a relapse prevention expert for the Addiction Project, and it's a methodology of giving people total freedom from addiction. In every person that you have a conversation with, you have to be able to create expectation that this is about success and freedom and never having to battle with their addiction again. So what would be the key points to give your client before starting the work? The key points are certainly that no matter what other kind of struggle that you've had, no matter how many times you've quit, no matter how many times you've failed, this is different. Most people tell me that within a few days it clicks, they get it, and they realize that this is a life-changing process. Now, some people, it may be a week or two because there's some other issues they need to uncover and clear up. But a lot of these people who have been to rehab over and over, nobody ever helped them deal with some of their deepest core issues. Nobody changed their belief about them not being addicted anymore. But for you, I want you to know that when you come to see me, the confidence is going to hit you maybe after just the first couple of days or maybe after a week, but you're going to realize that the freedom you're feeling is because we're doing really great work. Something like that. I created expectation, right? So the next question was, what are the most important phrases your client will need to hear? And those would be those phrases about you being free from addiction and that it's going to click. And that for some people it happens at this time. Some people it happens at that time. So you know these are your hypnotic language patterns that you need to know. They're presuppositions, future pacing, using the words most people realize about on the third day or fourth day that something clicks and they realize, it's working. And they feel this instant freedom that just gives them a whole new entire experience of their life. Some people find it in about a week. So what did I do? I gave them an either or. Most people experience this, and I give them a thing that's that experience. And some people in about a week, right? If you don't know your hypnotic language patterns, you really, really want to learn them. I will help you. But it's very important to get very good at saying them. That was most important phrases your client needs to hear. So future pacing them right from the very beginning, whether it's in person or on the phone or in an email. One of the things I hear a lot from my clients is how different their lives are after just a week or two of working together. And I know it might seem hard for you to understand right now, but it's possible that a month from now, you and I are going to be having this conversation, the same one I've had with hundreds of clients, that your life just feels like it's opened up and that the past really is in the past, and that now when you look in the mirror, you really do smile at the person you see and you really love yourself. And I know that's hard for you to imagine, but I think that we're going to be having this conversation in about a month or so, and maybe even sooner, and you're going to realize that things really are changing. Okay, so what did I do? I future paced them to a point in time, an exact point in time, in about a month, a conversation that we're going to be having and saying what that conversation is, and I put them into a mindset where they're building another future memory, which is standing in front of the mirror, looking at themselves, looking in those eyes, and seeing a person that they really love. Okay? All right. Now, Kathy says, can we be addicted to exercising and working out? Absolutely. I think that the addiction thing is that you do often replace one addiction with another. However, we want to replace the bad, destructive addiction with a healthy one. Do you get addicted to knitting or rock climbing? Or like I told you about my one client that became an Ironman triathlete. Do you become addicted like Daryl did to being a Toastmaster speaker, an expert? And he went to all these competitions. He could not have done this as a drunk. He went to all these competitions and became the national champion for Toastmasters. He got addicted to it, but it's a good thing to be addicted to. So I noticed that some of you are not typing in your ideas and thoughts. Your participation in the class is really, really important. I actually do want all of you to participate and to contribute. Okay? Really, seriously. It may have an effect on your final score of the exam. Okay, so Jared says, we need a deeper meaning and sense of purpose that gives us significance more than the need to be addicted. Yes, absolutely, 1000%. Give it up for Jared. We can choose to serve a higher level of service and significance in the world. Boy, right on. And if you can be addicted to that, what a great thing to be addicted to. Self-help programs, breakthrough things, inspirational books, being a force for having a purpose in your life, inspiring others. I'm a little addicted to the Addiction Freedom Program, personally. Like crack! I'm addicted to spreading the word and getting this as big as possible. Joanne says, we are creatures of habit. Some good, some less useful. Very nice language, Joanne. Addictive personality can be an excuse not to take responsibility for our behaviors. Yes, absolutely. The term addictive personality is an excuse, and it definitely only for ourselves gets us off the hook. Other people, they're not buying it. You could tell your client that. You say, I have a little bit of inside information on this whole addictive personality thing, and I know it might be, maybe not for you, but for most people, using the term addictive personality, it gives them an excuse, like it's not your fault. But I think that you probably know deep down that it's probably not the way you want to label yourself, and you don't want to feel powerless or hopeless about being an addictive personality. Am I right? Okay, so notice what I did. You know, if you want to go back and take notes and type that up and stick it in the Facebook group. So you are doing something that's leading them from their belief about an addictive personality. So, and I know you probably don't want to feel like that. And am I right? And your head goes up and down, yeah. Susie says, love the way you do it. It is so slick. Yeah, and it's years. I've been doing this for 20 years. Addiction work for 10 years, but this hypnotherapy for 20 years. When I would sit with clients, which I did for the first 10 years, I wanted to have these language patterns down, and I would read and read and read them. And at one point, I wanted to take them and put them on like flashcards and put them on the wall behind the client so that I could see some of the phrases, like the either or the future pacing or something, and I never did that because a client would have seen them. But I just wanted to be able to put those in there because it's for the benefit of your client. It is absolutely for their benefit that you do the programming for their good. Gary says, I like habit better than addiction. Yes, developing a new habit. So we can call it a habit, and it still is like an addiction to something. So your habit is exercising. But it's just, yeah, it's just, you know, the words. Rebecca says, I'm addicted to eating well. I believe we are all focused on certain things. Yeah, and Rebecca, I used to, like, I ate raw for a while, and I was really addicted to it. It was fun. It was a fun addiction because I'd get all these recipes and dehydrate things and make sure they weren't above 120 degrees and finding the restaurants that had the most amazing raw foods. It was a fun addiction. Now I kill cows and eat them and cook them. Ellen says, we can choose to become addicted to arts, crafts, and being kind and doing good. Absolutely. That's where you want the distinction to be. And no matter who you're talking to about addictive personality, make sure that you have all of these things in your tool bag that you can say, you know, it is good to be addicted to some things, but what if we can replace the addiction with a really amazing, strong, powerful, healthy life? Being a giver, or being kind and good, or becoming addicted to arts or crafts, or finally getting to be an actor in community theater that you've wanted to all your life. Okay, so Rebecca says, when it's positive, it is focus, negative addiction, question mark, and I'm not sure your question. But yeah, when it's positive and you focus on it, that would be your new addiction. I think our brain likes addictions. It does. And I don't mean that it should like drug and alcohol or harmful addictions. It's that we do like something that we get to do repetitively that makes us feel good. Drugs and alcohol release dopamine and opiates and make us feel good for the wrong reasons, without any satisfaction in our life and without any accomplishments. But they do give us the thing that our brain is looking for. We just want to feel good, and they do that temporarily while destroying our lives. Rebecca wants to be an expert in hypnotic language. So there are phrases, Rebecca, that you can start learning that sometimes are called weasel phrases, but you could look them up like in NLP. I think there's NLP Encyclopedia. I don't know if this is still around, but this was really cool. And if you were to Google that, NLP Encyclopedia, you might see, it's like a bookshelf, and you choose the different books, and it's got all these processes. It's pretty amazing. But to learn these language patterns are also called weasel phrases, which don't like that. But it's the way you start them and the things that you give as choices. So you start your phrases with, I don't know if you've ever felt blank. And maybe the next part of the phrase is, but most people tell me blank. So you want to learn them with, what are the pieces that I want in these language patterns? And your work with hypnotherapy will get much better. So yeah, Rebecca, let's have a class in that at some point and really work on those. Susie says, my GP told my son at the age of 15, when he was going through a tough time at a new boarding school, a music school, that he must have an addictive personality. Oh boy. And that if his granddad had depression, he's very likely to be genetically predisposed to depression. Oh, how sad. So anytime he has a little bit of a problem or feels insecure or does something that makes him feel ashamed or dumb or embarrassed, he's going to go to the expert who told him this. When an expert tells you something, like a doctor or a seminar speaker or someone that you have respect for, it is the biggest hypnotic command you could have. It goes straight to your subconscious. It impacts you, lines up with all the other things that you believe about yourself that match it, right? Jamie Smart has useful cards about NLP language. I like Jamie Smart. I think it's called Salad, right? Is it called Salad? It's kind of like word salad, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, we should look at getting those cards and practicing with them for addiction speaking, right? Because even if you're doing a presentation for a small group, don't you want to, in your presentation, be able to have these phrases and get them to have the most expectation and the best possibility of letting go of their old beliefs and letting some new ones sink in, right? So thank you for your participation. Those of you who did not participate and answer any questions yet, in the second hour of the class, I would highly encourage you to do that because it does feel really good to participate, doesn't it? Yes, it does. That's right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the phone consultation, rapport building, outlining a path to get there. This is again about language patterns, future pacing, expectations. Okay? So it was interesting, in our first training, there was one of the students who half-heartedly listened to the classes. He did participate a little bit. He had trouble spelling and making words appear coherently on the chat, but he occasionally did that. But he was very, very upset that he didn't pass the exam after taking it 4 times. And just some of the basic things he couldn't get. But I think that if you're listening to the class half-heartedly, there's stuff in this class that you won't get by reading the manual. It happens in this class. The manual is a guide, and it's a whole bunch of scripts and things like that. But it is not the class. So you've got to really set aside the time to pay attention and participate. When you participate, you embed things and learn things. And this is why I really like doing the class in person. And those of you who are here, who attended in Boulder, it was like rocket fuel, wasn't it? It took us well beyond what we had learned in person, just because of all the, the participation and the sharing, and you can't kind of sit there and text your friend on your phone because I'm watching. So any of you who have not been participating so far, be a good idea to do that. Okay, so Joanne says, yes, it's called Salad. So yeah, go to Jamie's site. Tell him Wendy sent you. And Susie says about the programming from the GP, says, yes, indeed, especially when you're at a vulnerable age and in a vulnerable state. Yeah. Bob says, good addictions, interests, sports, hobbies, etc. can give purpose and meaning to an individual, and that's what we want. So if you can give them an addiction, and I do apologize for using that word to describe something good, but if you can get them to be addicted to something that gives them an accomplishment, they're going to then get the dopamine and the opiates and the adrenaline, the things that they want for accomplishing something that might be hard or challenging, because it's a good feeling. Yeah, Melanie says rocket fuel. That's right. We had rocket fuel. Then we took a tour of Colorado's specialty. But apparently Melanie was not part of that, so she says. Anyway, cryptic, I know. Gary says an addiction begins when a habit takes on life-damaging consequences. Yeah, a harmful addiction. So think about that in a positive way, Gary. If we were thinking of a positive addiction, addiction begins when a habit takes on a life of accomplishment and pride and strength. So your addiction might be overcoming a life of abuse, and to do that, you go to all these different kinds of cool self-help groups or encounter things or workshops that help you bust out of your old beliefs and your old ways of thinking. So, okay, let's continue. And we are going to talk about the consultation. On the phone or in person, what is the client really asking? So you know that they want to quit drugs or alcohol. And of course, they may come to you for other addictions like gambling, sex addiction, internet addiction, porn addiction. And you can work the same program with those addictions, no problem. Tremendous success with porn addiction. They say that, I don't know if this is true, but I heard it on the radio, so it must be true. Marriage therapists say that 50% of marriages are ending because of porn addiction. So there you go. I don't know. Don't know if that's true, but you can do amazing work if you use these same principles for porn addiction. Okay, so in their initial phone call, what are they really asking? So type in what you think it is that they're really asking you, and what do they want to feel? What do they need to know? So those are the 3 questions we're going to go over right now. In their initial contact with you, it could be a free consultation in your office or on the phone if you do a phone consultation. What are they asking? What do they want to feel? What do they need to know? So I would say pick one of those and answer it in the chat room, and then we'll all share the answers. Okay, so pick one. What are they really asking? And again, there's no right answer on these. Well, there's some that are more right than others. But it's not like you're right or wrong. So what are they really asking? What do they want to feel? What do they need to know? So pick one of those and type something out that answers that question. Okay, and while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about building rapport. Hopefully in your hypnotherapy training, you know what it takes to build rapport. You have to start where they're at, in their tone, in their speed of speaking or moving, in the way they sit, the way that they look around, eye contact or no eye contact. You're going to meet them physically with where they are, at the pace that they're speaking or moving at, and you're going to move them from that place to where you want them to be, right? So you're not going to learn rapport, but I hope that you have done that and mastered it and you're very good at it. You can't just always be yourself. Because, your excited self, you've got this addict who's coming in. They've been depressed. They've been in jail. They've been hopeless. And their life has been just horrible. And they come into your office and you're like, yeah, okay, we're going to do this. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to have freedom, freedom all your life. And you're going to feel so good. And just guess what's going to happen in a month. It's going to be amazing. You're not even going to believe what's going to happen. And you're like, do. And I was just going to kill myself an hour ago, and I'm here. So that's a little bit better than where I was an hour ago. You've got to meet them where they are. Learn to not be yourself. Be with them where they are. Move them slowly where you want them to be. You've got to honor the fact that these people might be at a really, really dark place. You're going to create a code of honor and honesty with them. You're going to give them the opportunity to have integrity with you. No matter what else is happening, they get to feel what it's like to be 100% honest, 100% integrity, totally truthful, and know they don't have to make anything up and they don't have to lie. Now, how are you going to do this? Because for most of them, lying might be second nature. You want to challenge them and ask them when they answer questions or they come in for each session. If you're wondering, you're going to ask them, is that true? And maybe ahead of time in creating your code of honesty with them, you're going to say, there's times where I'm going to ask you, is that true? And I want you just to take a moment, take a breath, and decide if it's true or it's not totally true, and get used to finding in yourself honesty and then sharing the honesty with me. And then you're going to design an outcome beyond sobriety. Remember, most treatment centers, just like I read to you from the book Inside Rehab, where the client said they never talked about relapse prevention. They never gave me any help on how not to relapse. Amazing. But you're going to design the outcome that's after sobriety. That's what your job is. Okay? Now, Gary says, What they want to know is if I can make them stop. That's a very good answer. And they do. They want to know if you can make them stop. You can give them the confidence that you absolutely have the tools that together we're going to get you to the point where you're going to feel that amazing sense of freedom. Can I make you stop? I have tools that are going to make your brain forget about the drugs you were doing. And in a sense, I guess that's me helping make you stop, but really we're doing it together. Together, together, together. Remember that. Okay. Joanne, want to know that they will benefit and be able to follow the program. So Joanne says that what they want is to know that they'll benefit and be able to follow the program. Because think about that. What she said is so true. They failed at all these other programs. So they want to know if they'll simply be able to follow the program. Darren says, they are desperate for help. Positive change can give them a brighter future, and they can trust me. So this is probably the question, what do they want to feel? They're desperate for help. They want to feel positive change, that can I give them a brighter future, and can they trust me? So if all of you would copy and paste these into a document, let's stick that in the Facebook group, okay, because we all want to save these, okay? Susie says, what are they really asking, or what do they need to know? I don't know which question is, but the answer is, can we help them? They want to feel that they found the solution they've been looking for that is different from before. Susie, that, oh my gosh, that is a mouthful. Put your hand in the air and get that high five. They want to feel they found the solution they've been looking for and that it is different than before, because remember, they may have failed multiple times. It's got to be different than before. They want to know they're in the safe hands of a non-judgmental expert. So they walk into rehab and they hear things like, huh, how do you know when an addict's lying? When their lips are moving. They're all liars. Do they want to hear that? No, they want to know that you are there no matter what and that you're not judging them. Jared says they want to know you are an expert. Okay, very good. And are able to be there for them in a way they are currently unable to support themselves. Yes, that's really true too. They want to know that they can land right in front of you and you're going to be there. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to check in with you every day on the phone, just for a few minutes. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we're again going to practice being really honest. And every day I'm going to find out where you're at and help you stay accountable and give you a lift. Right? Ellen, they're asking for relief from the pain, shame, and negative consequences from their chosen addiction. So they do want relief. It consumes all of your time, all of your money, all of your everything in your life to continue your addiction, drugs or alcohol, porn, whatever it is. So they're asking for relief from the pain. The reason I want you to copy and paste all these into our Facebook group is look at that and know it and have that in your head that they need relief from the pain. You are this hypnotherapist who thinks, I'm going to give them freedom and show them this life that they love and live blah, blah, blah. But that is so far from where they're at. That's like the moon. You know, they're here when all they really want right now maybe is relief from the pain and shame and negative consequences. Very good, Ellen. Thank you. Minerva, they want to know, will this program really work? They need to feel hopeful that you can help them. And you need to back that up with the fact that this has been used worldwide on thousands of people in a home course, a non-supported home course with tremendous success for over 10 years. And so you want to have something to give you credibility and back it up, and that it's science-based, and that it's like nothing they've experienced. So all those things you've learned, we're going to have to unlearn some of them, because a lot of them are not helping you. Kathy says they're asking for help or hope. Yeah, most of them are pretty hopeless. So they do want hope, for sure. Rebecca says the same thing. They're asking for hope. Yep. And this was from the previous thing about being addicted to something good. The positive replacement element is so important both for the rewiring and to fill the gap. It's far easier to replace than just to eliminate. I think that's the key to so much of why typical addiction treatment doesn't work, because you're not replacing it with anything. And the stories in this book that I'm reading, Inside Rehab, and I've barely gotten into it, they say the same thing. You know, they're not building any kind of life for them. They're just trying to get them to do the 12 steps over and over and over and over and over and over. Yeah. Okay. So there might be some more comments coming in, but we're going to move on to the next thing, which is outlining a path to get there. And we pretty much talked about that. You remember when I just said a few minutes ago, you've got to meet them where they are to start with. Find out how sad, depressed, helpless, suicidal, or whatever they are. Hopefully they're not suicidal, because then you got another issue you need to deal with, because you're not. Yeah, some of you are, but some of you are not legally allowed to help someone if they truly say they're suicidal. Outlining a path to get there. You can go over the list of the 6 elements of permanent personality change. But you don't need to call it that. Say there's 6 elements that are the foundation and the absolute core of this program, and I'm going to go over each one and help you understand why each one is so important. Without every single one of them, the chances are that you're going to struggle. But we're going to make sure you're really complete on each one. And then we're going to have a 7th step, which is the one that's really going to seem maybe strange to you, but you're really going to love yourself. You really are. Okay, so outlining the path to get there. Using presuppositions, timelines of success, future pacing, which we've talked about, scheduling their plan. Schedule their plan, meaning have all their appointments down on paper or on your calendar. Don't schedule the next appointment when they come in, then schedule the next one, next one, next one. Schedule their 3 months or 6 months all the way out. Have every one of them done. Schedule the time that you're going to make their phone call, their accountability call. And again, you could do that 5 days a week. 7 days would be cool, but maybe the first week you want to do 7 days a week, and then you drop to like 5 days a week. But you're going to spend 5 minutes, maybe 10. Doesn't take long, and it's going to be a really quick accountability call and a rah, 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 you can do this. All right, scheduling their plan, ending a session. In most cases, this work that you're doing is going to be paid in advance. It's going to be paid on credit card or paid online. You're not going to collect money after each session because they're going to pay you for the full month in advance. With addiction work, it would be really dumb to do it 1 session at a time, because it's too much of a struggle. I mean, if they have the money to support their addiction, they have the money to pay you $3,000 for 1 month of amazing work. But if they're paying it every week, you know, there's just too many obstacles that force them to decide, well, should I go buy some heroin or should I go to my appointment with the counselor? So they're going to pay you in advance for the 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month program. So when you end your session, you're not asking them to pay you. You want them to leave feeling warm and fuzzy and happy and beautiful. You don't want to say, okay, well, I need you to write that check for $200 right now. Pay in advance or pay online. Don't let that be part of the energy disruptor. So now we have some of the strategies we're going to talk about, but we're going to take a little break because it is the top of the hour. I'm going to just look at the comments one more quick time and see who's still here. Bob says, asking, can you really help? What they want to feel. Okay, so what they want to feel is, can you really help? And he puts that in quotes. Can you really help? There is hope and need to know that they are in good, safe hands and it will work. So, I mean, the problem with this is, and that's a great answer, Bob, can we tell them, oh, yes, absolutely, this is going to work? Not really, because you don't know for sure. But what you can say in the part that it will work, you can say this is something so different that it's not just about addiction, it's about building a life that you love. And I know that seems really difficult right now for you to comprehend. But one of the things we want to do is use the science of what's going to change your brain, heal you the fastest, get some of the inner conflicts just totally resolved, and take away all the triggers that were triggering you to relapse. My goal is to make you feel really good, so good, in fact, that the drugs you were using is the farthest thing from your mind. In fact, we're going to use the hypnosis so effectively that it's going to just dissolve into some really faded, distant memory. And I know, because this has worked for thousands of people all over the world, I know that it has a really good chance of changing your life in so many ways. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to feel pretty good after even just the first few days of working together. Okay, so I didn't guarantee them it would work, but I said because it has had such tremendous success with thousands of people all over the world, that for you, it's going to be a life changer, absolutely, and it's going to give you the freedom that you want and that you really do deserve. Okay, so I didn't give them the guarantee. I would not say that this work is guaranteed. No hypnotherapy work is really like guaranteed, because all you're doing is planting a seed for them to fail. If they fail, if you give them a money back guarantee, if they fail, they get rewarded, get their money back. With addictions, not so good. Okay. All right, so thank you for your awesome comments. Let's take a 5-minute break. So check your watches. Who wears a watch? And go take a little pee-pee, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah. Hello. I'm back. Joanne has a great suggestion, a book called Word Weaving, good for learning hypnotic language. So, Joanne in the UK and Bob in the UK. Susie in the UK. Yeah, I think you guys should collaborate, but I'm going to come out there, you know. I'm thinking September. So, and then we will get a big vacation house where people who are coming from far and wide in the UK can come and stay. The house will do the training in the vacation house. Yay. Okay. Hello, Susie. So remember, if someone can take those notes from just the previous few questions, that would be great. The ones, what do they want to know, what do they want to feel, that sort of thing. You know, speaking of replacing the addiction with something good, is some of my clients say they're addicted to tea now, to hot tea, because in that addiction zapper process, we've replaced that addiction trigger in their brain to want to either have a cup of hot tea and all that that means and all that it embodies for them, or bubbling water, like the one woman said her husband's just totally addicted to the Pellegrino, that he just drinks that and it does the job, or juice of some sort. But then one of our, I think Kathy, or I don't remember who it was, said, well, why don't we have a nice teacup that they get that has like really cool words or the logo or something that is a really beautiful, inspiring image that is the thing that we connect to, you know, their love of tea. So the tea thing. Remember that. That'll be really easy for those of you in the UK. All you tea drinkers. We're catching on here. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Did that. So we're going to look at your identity a little bit, and this is how you need to talk to your clients, helping them understand their identity. Because of the 12 steps in AA that they've done, they believe that their identity includes things like they are their disease. That is your disease talking. So when they're in a group and certain things they're sharing, they will say, that is your disease talking. Well, first of all, you're owning it, and you're letting it have a voice over you, so it's actually a thing that you own. You say, my disease, I have this disease, I'm genetically predisposed to this disease, right? So helping your client with identity issues, you're not, and you want to say to them that, you know, I know this is going to seem really odd at first, but our ultimate goal is that you're not going to be an addict or an alcoholic. You're not going to introduce yourself as an addict or alcoholic, and you are no longer someone who is diseased, because there's a lot of experts that do believe that this is not a disease, and I can help you with that if you need more information. So you say that to them to help them get away from the disease model. So your past is not who you are. It is experiences you've had, stories about your life, but it's not who you are. You made mistakes, you did some bad things, but it's just not who you are. So what we want to do is find out who you are and help you experience who that is and why you're working on loving yourself for who you really are. You know, their mistakes might have been really bad. Probably are, if they're in that bad a shape. But we have to help them understand that that's just not who they are. Those are experiences you had. Okay, helping them change the identity of their past, of the things that they believed about themselves, using the past timeline. One of the ways to do that is with the way they use the orientation of their past timeline. And I really like doing this like with an individual or a group. If you're doing it with a group, you can have the entire group stand up and do this process. So I'm going to do it with you, and you can do it sitting down or standing up, either way. It will require closing your eyes for just a few seconds. Here's my tea bag. I'm going to drink this tea. So I'm very thirsty. But it's very hot. Okay, so here's how we're going to establish the position of their past timeline. And you don't want to suggest that they're going to be working on finding the position of their past timeline. What you want to do is leave it very open to them discovering this position of where they hold their past. So I have done this standing up, and I would suggest that your clients or your group is doing it standing up. And so you have everybody stand up, and you say, I want you just to take a nice deep breath. Let it all the way out. Good. Another deep breath. Nice. Okay, and just for a moment, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to notice some things about how you think about your past, because everybody thinks about their past differently. So I want you to remember something you did yesterday, maybe what you had for lunch, if you can remember that, or someone you talked to on the phone, or something you saw on TV. I want you just to remember that. Now I want you to notice that from where you're at in the present moment, your body and your mind and your thoughts, that is this present moment now, where do you perceive that memory to be? The memory from yesterday. Just notice where it is in relation to where you are. It could be anywhere. Good. Now I want you to remember something that happened a few months ago. Maybe it was a birthday that you went to, a party of your own, or a holiday, or something that you definitely remember. Maybe you got a new car or whatever it was. I want you to notice a memory from a few months ago. So go ahead and remember that. And I want you to notice how far away from you it feels like it is. Notice where it is in relation to your body. How far or how close. Now I want you to remember something from a year or two ago. It could be a special event, or it could be something sad and not so good, but maybe a happier one would be good. But you know what, if something pops up that's difficult that you have on your mind, just notice where that is in relation to your body and your present moment. Where it is, how far away it is, or how close it is. And then from where you're at, I want you to let that kind of draw a line from where you're at in the present moment to where you hold all your memories of the past. So kind of like a timeline of all those memories. Just let yourself feel that line that you're drawing. And now what I want you to do is just hold up your arm, and whichever direction or whichever side of you, or behind or in front or wherever it is, I want you just to point your arm in the direction where those memories are held. So go ahead and point your arm in that direction. Okay, so they're doing that, right? And they're just putting it somewhere. Okay, so for all of you, that was my chair. I wasn't farting. That was my chair on the floor. Gotta get that out of the way. Now, if you're doing this with a group, you'll notice that some people have their arm facing out front, some to the side, some might be up a bit, some are behind, and some it might be way behind them. And what's interesting is the people who have their arm in a position to their side or a little bit back, it's like their past is not behind them. And you notice when I use the words to achieve this, I did not say behind you, or try not to say like that it's very far away. I said it might be far or close. Just notice what direction from your body the past seems like it is. You want to not imply or suggest too many things. Let them discover it. But now what's really good is if you're doing this with a group, if you notice someone who has their arm out to the side, and then you say, can I show you something for a minute about how that might be feeling for you? So holding your arm out to the side, all of your memories of the past are just right over there, aren't they? They're out there beside you. So let's say you were going to walk forward into your future. So go ahead and take just 3 or 4 steps right now, for real, like you're walking into your future. And you let them take a few steps. Say, notice what happens. Where are all the memories of your past? Everything that you use to judge yourself, put yourself down, to reward yourself or feel good. But all of them are right there beside you. So no matter how far you go into the future, they're still there. Now, you might have another person, or if you only have one client you're doing this with, if their timeline's a little bit behind them, at an angle. You might say, you know, no matter how far you walk into the future, you walk a few steps, still there, you can kind of check on it. It's still within your view and in your mind, and no matter how far you go into the future, the past is still right there. Okay, so this is part 1 of this experience. So now you have your entire group close their eyes again, and this time you say, I want to do a little experiment with you. Now hopefully they're still standing up and your client is still standing up as well. I want to do an experiment, and if you don't like it, you can always change it back. But I want you to imagine that you're going to take all of those memories from whatever position they were in, off to the side or in front of you or wherever they were. When I count to 3, I want you to let them shift backwards a little bit. Now, some of you may already know how to do this, and you might have learned it from a variety of different trainers, but I'll just go through my version. So on the count of 3, I want you to imagine that this timeline of your past memories, it's going to shift at an angle behind you just a bit, maybe 1/4 of the way. Ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. And here, just kind of locking into place. Take a deep breath. How does that feel? All of those memories, all those things that you've learned to use to maybe judge yourself or hold yourself down or that you can't let go of, a little bit more behind you. If you were to move into the future, not quite as difficult. But now I want you to let them move even farther behind you. Not all the way, but not all the way in the back, but a little farther behind you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Click. Let it lock in place. Now notice how that feels when they're a little bit more behind you. You've learned from all of these memories and experiences. You've taken whatever the positive lessons are. You're letting go of the things that you thought made you who you are. But now I want you to let those memories go directly behind you on the next one. I want you to let them lock in place directly behind you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, as I said, we can change it back in a moment, but I want you to notice right now, if you were to take a few steps forward, if you imagine walking forward in your life, every step you take into the future, where do the past memories go? They go farther behind you. You really can let the past be in the past. You can put the past behind you. Okay, so make some notes about what I just said there, guys and girls. So I said you can let those memories be in the past. The more you step forward into your future, the farther in the past they are. You really can put the past behind you. So go ahead and open your eyes and take a few steps forward. And notice how that feels. Now, if you were doing this with a group, you want to now go and walk over to several of these people that are all standing there in your room, and you want to ask them, how does that feel? What happened? What was different after we put it all the way behind you? How did that feel when you walked into the future? And they're going to be going, oh my God! How'd you do that? Anyway, they're going to love it. But the point is that some people might be uncomfortable with that, and you're going to tell them that. You say, okay, you talk to a few people, or if it's a private client, you just talk to them about how that felt. But have them stand up for the entire process. Then say, for some people, it's an awfully big change to take all those memories and actually put them behind them in the past. And I understand if that's not comfortable, because we could always change it back. No problem. In fact, right now, if you want to, we could change them back to where it's right beside you, so you can keep them all there fresh where you had them. And most of the times, I'm like, no. But offer them that option. And probably don't put them back to the side. Does that make sense? Do you understand? What we've done, which is so common with addicts, is they have all of their past memories are always here, because it's all the therapy, all the stuff they're doing, and all the mistakes they're making. They're still paying for the mistakes, and it's just all right here, and they can't get away from it, even metaphorically. So if you create this metaphorical timeline that has said that every step you take into your future, the past truly is behind you. You really did put the past behind you. Big relief, right? Okay, so I'm going to read a couple comments while you guys are absorbing that, going like, yeah, right on, that rocks. High five, Wendy. Okay, Ed says, let me go back a bit. Oh, Word Weaving is a great book for learning language. Ed says, is this a book you're suggesting, Word Weaving, The Science of Suggestion, a comprehensive guide to creating hypnotic language by Trevor Sylvester? I've heard the name Trevor Sylvester. I don't know if he's any good or not. That sounds good. It sounds like it's a comprehensive guide to creating hypnotic language. It's all in the title, folks. It's all in the title. Okay, Darren says the last 2 weeks in September would be good for me. Anytime in the last 10 days of September. Okay, I'll shoot for the last 10 days of September. All right, and it will depend on you, all of you, helping me get enough people enrolled. You don't have to do anything to make that happen other than tell your colleagues and make sure that you're as vocal as you can about the training coming there, because that's where we can get enough people to make it work. All right, so you understand that. You do that with your client. You don't just talk about it, but you do it. They have to experience it. And most therapy, even cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is not experiential. When we do experiential work, things change, and a lot of that has to be done hypnotically for it to be experiential. Some of it's physically experiential. For instance, this one training I was in, it was a 4-day long training. It was one of these where you stay up till like, midnight, 1, 2 a.m. Well, one of the days, my experiential training was that I had to be a mime for the whole day and I couldn't talk. So yeah, so I had to wear all black and paint my face white and be of service to everybody and not talk for the entire day. That was experiential. And that's how I learned something about what I needed at that time, which was a life-changing experience. So, okay. Jared has an amusing question. If the past is behind them, then do they learn from past mistakes? Yes, absolutely. Ooh, I want to order that book now. Joanne says it came with a CD and cards to practice. Bob says the past is history and cannot be changed. Their goal should be to look back again in 5 years, this point now, and have no regrets with the choices they've made. Well, Bob, since we're going to be doing the future timeline work, which we're going to talk about, they're going to be hypnotically planting themselves into these points in the future. And they're actually going to experience 5 years in the future, looking back already, so that that becomes a reality to them. So you're absolutely right. They're going to look back during your session, but also they're going to have that in their, in their brain that, wow, this is where I'll be. And they do the timeline pieces in like 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. So Jared says, do they learn from past mistakes? When we do the past timeline work, they not only learn from the mistakes, but they find a different lesson. Doing work on your past timeline, not the work we just did, but actually going into these emotional events in your past timeline, you find the positive learning, the positive lesson, the thing that means something to you now, knowing what you know now. What is it that is positive about that? What is it that you are going to change or create or absolutely believe so that never happens again, or to know that you're going to protect yourself or whatever it is? So they create a statement that is a belief that they infuse into that memory of the past. So that is something that they're going to keep. And they do let go of the negative emotions, but they replace how it's stored in their brain. And that place in their brain where they were storing that trauma, now, if it's triggered with the positive lesson or the statement of belief about themselves or the new value that they implanted or infused into that memory. Darren says, I need to let go of the emotional attachment to the past, for sure. Doing the past timeline work that I think we're going to be talking about today, if it's on my notes, is going to do that. And we are going to learn that, for sure. Okay. Susie says her book didn't have a CD and practice stuff for word moving. Huh. Maybe it's something new they're doing. Okay, so I don't see any other questions, but let's continue. So other ways that we're going to change that identity that they got from their past. And we're running out of time, so I'm going to go kind of quickly. The inner child work, and all of you, I assume, know how to do brilliant inner child work. Many times with someone who's had a lot of addiction issues in their past, has trauma from their past, and they've got to go and reconnect with that inner child, heal the inner child, make sure the inner child is safe, and do that work to resolve that. Meeting your future self. So if you are going into that future moment and you're asking that future self, well, what is the one thing I can do to help me forget about the just deep, deep sadness I have about my dad's death or something. They'll ask their future self, and that future self is going to give them information on how to heal that. And they're going to get that information like it's something they didn't know. It's a surprise, like, oh, wow, I've never thought of that. Okay. Other strategies for releasing the past. Doing the past timeline. So as I said, we're going to talk about that and work on that. Regression to cause. And all of you, I assume, know about regression to cause. I'm assuming that you all are pretty good in that. If not, that could be an additional training we could do, but or you can find it from someone else. But we do want to do really good work with regression to cause and find that inner child and heal that inner child. Another process is release negative anchors. Release negative anchors. I believe that MP3 is on your private page on theaddictionproject.com. There's a private page, the one that has the password, and I think you can download the MP3. Releasing the negative anchors is a really brilliant session that is going to help them get rid of the things that are triggering relapse. Okay, so another thing you can do for releasing the past is a swish pattern. The swish helps, as I said a couple days ago, but it takes the old memories and puts them all onto one screen. And then you're repeatedly overlaying it with the things you do want and the outcome picture you do want. And then you're making it fuzzy, crackly, black and white. You're draining all the image from it, and it just changed the way that the brain holds that memory, which is a very, very good thing. Forgiveness. They do need to do forgiveness work. You don't want to jump into that as one of the first things they're going to do. But they've got to work on forgiveness. So one of the ways that you can do that is there's a link on that same Addiction Project page that has the forgiveness audio program to listen to. There's also a book that has a 4-session forgiveness program in it. You might not need to do that much work with your client to make 4 sessions just on forgiveness. However, you might. And in that forgiveness book, it's a script book with a lot of explanation of how to do the processes. You're going to be doing a lot of inner child work as well. So you have to take them in very small steps when you're doing forgiveness work. You can't just go in and decide that, okay, today we're going to forgive your grandfather for sexually abusing you 3 nights a week for most of your life, or we're going to, we're going to just go and forgive your mom for physically, beating you up or something. I don't know, whatever. Oof. So much trauma out there. Huh. But anyway, you're going to go in very small steps. I think you know that. That's why the forgiveness book has 4 different sessions in it. Okay. And it says, slow process. Do not rush into this. Yes. All right, so you've got the audio to the forgiveness program, the process I use, but also the book, which both of them I think are totally different. I wrote the book many years ago. I made the program another time, and whatever. They're different. They're two takes on how to do forgiveness. All right, so what do you do if your client relapses? So let's talk about that now. What would you say that you should do if your client comes in and says, you know that thing about honesty and integrity? You know how we said we'd be like totally honest with each other? Well, here's what happened. And they tell you that they relapsed. Type in what something is that you should do when they tell you they relapsed. Okay? So everybody type something in. And tell me what you should do if they relapse. Okay, it could be a wild guess. It could be what you think you would do, or it could be what you've learned already, so that it's sort of a review for you. So type in what you think you would do if they say they've relapsed. And then also, if someone can copy and paste these things, we can share them in the Facebook tap page. Vanessa says, what may be the visions and techniques of psychosynthesis is brilliant for inner child's work, or inner chili's work, as she says. Because sometimes the inner chilies are just too damn hot. But I know what you mean. We may be, but I'm not sure I understand if it's a statement or question. The visions and techniques of psychosynthesis is brilliant. So the name of the book or process is Visions and Techniques of Psychosynthesis. I need to remember to call Marshall Silver. He is, he's kind of big in the hypnosis world. But anyway, I had dinner with him in Las Vegas a few years ago, and he said we should work together. We should do a project together. And then when I saw him a couple years ago, I did an interview with him, and he said, if there's anything I can do to help you with the addiction project, anything at all, anything, just ask, because his niece died of an overdose at 21 years old. So I need to remember to talk to him about that and see what we can do. He might be able to move things forward for us really fast. Okay, relapse. Susie says, listen, no judgment. Jared says, relapse is part of recovery. Jared, are you being funny? I hope that, yes, there's a smiley face. That's a joke. You're going to have to laugh after you say that, right? Rebecca says, acknowledge, and at the same time let them know it's information to move forward. Right. So it's feedback. It's information that there's something that we need to look at. Yeah. And what we're going to do is we're going to clear up whatever that self-sabotage was or whatever triggered you, and we're going to release that. Gary, tell them it's information. We can find the trigger and change its outcome. That's very, very good. And again, somebody copy and paste all these, okay? Tell them it's only information, and say it in a tone of voice that, don't say, well, this is information. It's only information, and we can find the trigger and we can change its outcome. Darren says, find the trigger point for the relapse. Absolutely. Brilliant, brilliant. Ellen, be supportive, non-judgmental, and help them understand what the factors were that caused this to happen. Yeah, exactly. And then they're going to be relieved. Because like if you go to an AA meeting, got to talk about your relapse, it's like everybody's all supportive and loving, and actually you're getting a little bit too much secondary gain for relapsing, I think. Just my opinion. Joanne says, listen, use the information to reframe it. Yes. And I'm hoping that all of you are great at reframing something. So if they say, well, my best friend was just put in jail. Someone turned her in for dealing heroin, and so I drank. I can't take it. It was just too devastating. So reframe would mean, well, that is a really, really devastating thing to have happen. I can totally understand why, it caused you to feel like you just didn't have a choice about drinking. But, what is it really that you decided on an even deeper level about your life when your friend was arrested for heroin. It's, you know, it's going to be really, really hard for her now. This is going to be a really tough time in her life. But what could it help you to decide? I mean, is there a part of you that really wants to be stronger now, and that you know that you are this much closer to being totally free from all of this and being a healthy woman with healthy thoughts and a healthy brain? You can be her best friend and her best resource and help her the most. So that would be kind of a reframe. Susie says, total guess, identify the trigger and work on it. Reassure again that this is now in the past and it's time to move forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a good guess. It's accurate. Edward says, okay, and what do you intend to do now? I don't know if I'm digging that one, Ed. Try again. Bob says, find out why. Encourage them to carry on. Yeah, find out why. But you also want to do a process. You want to say, you know, self-sabotage is a big deal for everybody, whether they're an addict or not, because there's something positive that this part of you is trying to get. So, you know what? I've got time today if you want to come in for a session, and let's find out why you sabotaged yourself. And let's find out the positive reason behind it, because, you know, it's not because you're weak or you're no good. It's because there was a part of you that wanted this for a positive reason. Once we find out what it is, we've eliminated one of the self-sabotage issues. Okay. Jared says, help them have a sense of curiosity to uncover the triggers and reframe. Yes, yes, yes. Minerva, relapse is information. Let's look deeper and resolve the trigger. The trigger was like a sleeper agent that was activated. Brilliant. This time we'll take the trigger and rewire it to the outcomes of feeling strong and healthy and in control. Yep. Very good, Minerva. So this is, you know, Minerva is describing the self-sabotage in other words, which is great. Kathy says, trust your intuition that they're telling you the truth and not giving you excuses or rationalizing. Yeah, find out how do you feel as a gut feeling, and maybe help them with their integrity and their commitment about being honest and saying, well, you know, what do you think it is that might have really triggered that? I know your best friend got put in jail, but what is it that happened to you? What fear or insecurity did that trigger in you? And then have them answer and say, now, if you could go deeper and be even more honest, if you just took a breath and you were even more honest with yourself, what fear is below that? Or what was the need that you had that made you say, I'm throwing it all away and I'm going to go drink? Yeah, so, okay, the other thing is, they're not starting over. In AA, when you relapse, you're starting over. You go back to step one because you obviously haven't learned a damn thing. And then they say that relapse is part of recovery, as Jared said, which is hilarious. It's not. It doesn't need to be. Let's not buy into that. So when you go to your AA meeting, you go like, oh, I shot heroin yesterday. So it's okay. Relapse is part of recovery. It's not. But it happens. It does happen. It might happen. You know, they're not perfect human beings. None of us are. But it doesn't set you back. All the progress you've made, you're still at this point, and you've still made this much progress. We just got to tweak this little bugger a little bit. And that'll be like, oh, thank God. All right. Relapse. Okay, what I have in my notes is you keep a poker face. You do not look disappointed. You are not happy. You are not going to give them any satisfaction or judgment or anything about the relapse. No sympathy and no punishment. Find the common relapse triggers. Remind the client it is part of the learning process. Say, I know it feels bad right now, but it's part of the process of learning and finding out what we need to work on. And it doesn't mean you're starting over. You've not lost any progress. And give them the strategy of what you're going to do for them for the relapse, which is self-sabotage work, finding the positive intention behind the bad thing. All right, so Q&A, Q&A, Q&A. Anybody have questions? Your homework, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Everybody loves this a lot. Ooh. Yay! It's called an elevator speech or an elevator pitch, and the purpose of it is that if you were stuck in an elevator with someone who is the national director for the research of new innovative programs in addiction treatment, and you were stuck in the elevator with this person and you only have 30 seconds to get your point across, and this person happens to say, you know, we're looking for new innovative programs in addiction treatment. You only have 30 seconds. You have to have an elevator speech that nails it in 30 seconds. It is not an advertisement. It is a conversation. Hi, I'm Jared, and I'm an addiction freedom specialist, whatever, blah, 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 right? Okay, so you're going to write your elevator speech. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be brilliant, but you have to do it before tomorrow. Oh, yes, I know. That's good, huh? 30 seconds-ish, maybe 45 seconds, but you got to nail it at the ending, too. It's got to have a strong opener, strong ending, and it's going to have good, powerful stuff in the middle. And then we're going to work on those elevator speeches. We're going to tweak them for you, okay? You can have people in the TAP training room on Facebook help you with it too, because some of them, they have some good ones. Oh my goodness, they're good. Woo! But they weren't at the beginning. We had to work on it. What needs to be in that elevator speech? First of all, now you might want to write this down and take notes. You want something that establishes you as an expert. Okay, write that down. Your elevator speech establishes you as an expert. You need some credibility, something that gives them a clear message that this is science-based. It is based on the success of experts and researchers in the field, something like that. Got to have credibility in there. Something that is about you and why you're an expert. Okay, we want to establish that you are an expert. We want it to nail the points and be memorable. So if it's a rambling on and on thing that's like the world's longest run-on sentence and you never take a breath and they don't know when to hear this or that and there's no point that's made and it kind of trails off, so, you know, I'd be a really good person for you to kind of get to know. Wait, don't leave, no. It's got to be memorable. Why will they remember it? What does it shake up in them? What does it make them go like, oh, I have got to talk to that person, woman, man. Okay? So we're going to work on it on the TAP training page. Go ahead and post it as you're working on it so you can have everybody help tweak it. And I'm going to be like super honest and a bit critical of your elevator speeches, so toughen the hell up, okay? Because most of them are going to suck at first. And some of you are going to write an ad, and it's not supposed to be an ad, but that's okay. As long as you do the homework, that's what's important. So I'm taking names. Do I know about the Amy Winehouse Foundation? You know, I know about Amy Winehouse, but I don't know about that foundation. I don't. But that brings up another interesting thing. Joanne, would you want to do a little bit of research on that and help us look and see if that's someone we could approach, an organization? You know, someone was making a list of celebrities that used hypnotherapy to overcome addictions, drug and alcohol addictions of all kinds. Luke's brother, the one that I was temporarily in love with. The hell is his name? He had a heroin addiction, so he did hypnotherapy in sweat lodges to get over it. The meth addiction, Fergie, got over her meth addiction with hypnotherapy, and on and on. There's all these celebrities that have used hypnotherapy, and I think it was Matt Damon. He quit smoking with hypnotherapy, and he thought this was like, he's the first one to ever discover this. Was so excited. He went on these talk shows and said, I'm opening centers all over the country that are going to be for hypnotherapy for quitting smoking, because I think it's the greatest thing ever. He was a little blown away. I don't think he ever did that, but that was what he wanted to do. Bob says, perhaps it would be time for parts therapy to see what made them want to do it. Exactly. And Bob, that was exactly what I was talking about when we're looking for the positive intention and the self-sabotage. That's parts therapy. So that's what you're doing. So telling your client that, well, we'll do some parts therapy, they're not going to understand that. But if you remind them that, you know, self-sabotage, you know, it's a big deal because we got these hidden agendas that when they're hidden, they have some power over us. But what we're going to do is find like the part of you that needed to make that happen, and we're going to talk to that part of you and find out what it needed, what its positive intention was, why you felt that self-sabotage. So yeah, that is parts therapy for sure. Okay, cool, Joanne. Things are coming together. Okay, we want to wrap it up. Any more questions? Any more comments? We have a mastermind group tomorrow, every Tuesday. And there are some things that you all, not all of you, not the new students, but the existing students committed to in your accomplishments for tomorrow. So I want to remind you to take care of those. The mastermind group this week will be at the same time, which was, it's an hour before this class started. But I know that time isn't going to work for our Australians, really. So the following week, we'll change the time for the mastermind group and see if we can pick an afternoon time that works for people in the UK. For those of you in the UK, what time is it for you right now? Is it 9 p.m. right now? Let me know what time it is for you right now so I'll have an idea of when we could work out the mastermind group for everybody. It's the only drawback to doing this live is we want people on here live, but the time zones are complex. So thank you all for your input. This is really cool. This is very, very, very helpful always to have your input. This training is not just about me teaching you all of this. It is about you sharing and moving us forward faster and enlightening us and inspiring us, but also bringing your knowledge to the training. And it is not just what I know. It's what all of you know that you can share. So it is 9 o'clock there. And for Vanessa, it's Lou a.m. What is that? It's not 1 a.m. What is that, Vanessa? It's pound Lou. So it's not 3 a.m. right now, hopefully. Oh, it's 6 a.m. in Australia. So you started this at 4 a.m. Okay. So if it's 6 a.m. now, and it's 10 p.m. in France, oh boy. So I was thinking of having the mastermind meeting in the afternoon here, which would make it really late in France and not so early in Australia. I'll have to ponder that. So I'm going to just, we've got your 10 p.m. in France, 6 a.m. in Australia. And I think, Susie, you're UK, right? And Joanne's UK, so 9 p.m. in UK. Yeah, well, we'll find a good time for a mastermind meeting. Maybe we'll do 2 on Tuesdays. Not tomorrow, though. All right, so new questions. Is there a particular way you would handle helping people deal with the negative consequences of their addiction that are current? Ooh, Ellen. I know a gal who's been clean for 18 months, and she's very frustrated with having to clean up and deal with the negatives of her previous lifestyle, financial, educational, and with the law. In some ways, the past is indeed with her. Isn't that true? Oh, Rebecca, that's right. It's at 10 Mountain, which is actually 2 hours earlier than we started this class today. So whatever time you started today, it is 2 hours earlier. You're right. Okay, not 1 hour. Thanks for correcting me. Appreciate it. Yeah, Ellen, that's a tough one, and that is a big reality. You know, that is so hard because so many ways that you'd want to move past it, especially if you've been successful in being committed to not living your life of addiction and you've overcome it. But yeah, you have so many legal things. Yeah, let's talk about that and ponder that a bit and see if we can come up with something that is a strategy that brings them some relief. When I was very poor, I was a single mom, my kids were very little, and I was just starting out doing hypnotherapy, and I'd had 2 retail businesses, one that I'd sold, the other one was not doing well, and I owed a lot of money on it, and I hadn't filed my taxes in a period of time. Things like that. I had a lot of pressure, and even though those things had happened in the past, like the tax stuff and the employee tax, after I'd closed that business down, I was still dealing with it, you know, a year later and a couple years later. And Yeah, it was really hard because what it did is it just made me not want to deal with it at all. So I'm thinking in the same terms of her, your client or friend, or how much pressure that puts on her. For me, to do a hypnosis process on myself that I did, that was taking it to the completion, experiencing myself of having done these chunks of the process, because the whole thing was too big, and getting myself to the point where it's completed. So for your client, she doesn't have a light at the end of the tunnel, and she doesn't have a feeling like, wow, this is going to be over someday. It's just day to day to day crud. Maybe take her to the point where it's over and have her really experience what it feels like for it to be over, and the words and the feelings and everything, and then have her take that feeling into the present moment, knowing that it's all just details. It's little stuff, and it's all just little details with no emotion anymore. You're simply getting to that finish line, and take the dread out, because the dread or the fear of having to do that is what she's feeling. So Jared says, build self-image and esteem, and the capacity for taking responsibility and moving forward as her authentic self. Very, very good, very good. Kathy, positive daily affirmations to remind them how far they've come. Yeah, that's for sure. And implanting that hypnotically, so helping her with that, then having the phrases that mean something to her in each step along the way, like maybe she's on probation and she'll be off probation in 3 months. Have her go to the end of that point and pick something that is the pride, the accomplishment, pretending she's receiving an award for being the most awesome, person to ever get off probation. And then creating some affirmations that go with that. That'd be cool. Yeah, this is going to be a big deal with all of our clients in most cases. Yeah. Well, thank you all. Love you deeply. We're going to do class tomorrow, same time, same place. 2 hours before this class is the mastermind session, and it will be recorded, so you don't have to get up at 2 a.m. You Australians, you should just stay up all night. You don't need to go to bed. So it will be recorded, and I apologize for last week's mastermind session getting deleted. I don't know who did that. But anyway, we're done. Yay! Hands in the air like you just really care. High fives all around. Hug yourself. Go, ooh, 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 ooh. All right, you guys. See you tomorrow. 2 times. Mastermind and this. Woo. Bye-bye.